Good morning, everyone. We have got Monday morning mommy me time today. I got my cup of tea. I have English breakfast tea because that's what I heard in my meditation this morning, that I get to be having that yummy, delicious stuff for breakfast. Actually, for breakfast this morning, it was so delicious. So every morning I've been sitting in meditation and listening to what I get to serve you guys with. And this morning, oh, so delicious. I heard to take a Granny Smith apple and cranberries and coconut oil and cinnamon, and I boiled it on the stove. Well, I didn't boil it because it was just that. I sauteed it, I guess, until the cranberries popped. And then I just put an instant packet of organic oatmeal and some water and stirred it up. It was so delicious. So if you want a quick, easy, delicious, and nutritious breakfast idea, there you go. And that's good for mommies. And let's see. Hi, good morning. I have somebody with me. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here. So we're going to talk about autocratic parenting. And what the heck is autocratic parenting? It's Monday morning me time. I'm Heather Hundhausen, and I just finished a very amazing course this weekend. I'm always learning and training so that I can bring you guys more great information. And really the weekend, it was about craniosacral therapy, which is a type of massage technique. But what I got out of the weekend was, the more we raise our vibrational awareness, the more we are in the vibration of love. So love isn't a feeling, it's a vibration. And the more we're in the vibration of love, the more we attract more love, the more we put out more love, the more we love ourselves, and the better everything works. And I got to see the science behind this weekend. It was so exciting. So everything that I'm teaching you guys is, even though we're learning on a very like neocortex, frontal brain, thought and logical process part of our brain, everything I'm teaching you is also going to raise your vibrational awareness, which is going to create more love in your life and in your relationships and in your family. So we have just got so much good and juicy stuff. So today's autocratic parenting. We also did one on permissive parenting. So permissive parenting is the opposite of autocratic parenting. And so autocratic parenting looks like this. So the parent is afraid that the children won't do it right. Like, they really want the kid to do it right. And it doesn't matter what it is, you got to do it right. And there are very strict rules that come from the parent, because they're trying to like control and figure out how to get you, the kid, to do it right. And the rules are not negotiated. This isn't like, hey, you know, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good rule or not? They're extremely arbitrary. And what arbitrary means is, like, what I say goes, and it doesn't matter if I change my mind in 5 minutes. The hoped for outcome of the parents about their children is that their children will be very well behaved. I will have a very well behaved child, and that's very important to me because I need to fit in socially, and so my kid needs to fit in socially. And it's all about being seen as socially acceptable, and we're going to get into the underlying feelings that go underneath autocratic and controlling parenting. So the trouble is, the child often feels very bound and restricted and doesn't have the opportunity to express themselves or feel their freedom. So oftentimes what happens is we lose our sense of self when we are parented with an autocratic parent. The underlying feeling is at the far end of this, you know, you've got authoritarian, and on the far end you've got you're seeing what I'm saying. At the far end you've got the permissive parent. So the autocratic parent, the underlying feeling that the child has is, I really don't know who I am. I'm just going to do what you tell me to so that I don't get in trouble because I'm so scared of you. You are so scary. And fear is what makes the child behave. It feels like a prison is what Dagmar says. Yes, it does. It feels like a prison. So the autocratic parent actually believes that their children don't have the capacity or the ability to make good choices on their own. So these parents, my parents had the idea, you know, everybody has great intentions as parents. I don't mean to like beat anybody up here, but we're talking about what is, I mean, we're going to put it in a tiny little box here. What is autocratic parenting? And although you may have some autocratic parenting pieces or discipline, you know, you may have some other stuff going on also, but we're going to stick it in a tiny little box and just talk about what like really strict, controlling, autocratic, rule-making parents are. And so I don't mean for it to sound judgmental at all. It's just, I'm going to just show you exactly what happens when you come out of that. So the parent actually, on some level, doesn't believe that their child is internally motivated. They somehow think that they have to be the one to motivate you, the child, or they have to control you because you're just not, they just don't trust you. There's a serious lack of trust with autocratic and controlling parenting. And that probably came from their parents who didn't trust, you know. And so one of the underlying issues with autocratic parenting for the child who grows into an adult is lack of trust. And this child grows up believing that people can't be trusted. I wasn't trusted, so how could I trust others? I can't trust myself because my parents can't trust me. How could I possibly trust others? It's a really big piece of this. And so then the parent feels like they have to punish the child and have really strict rules. So it's like you know, if I ring the bell, you'll come for dinner is very like classical conditioning. And if you don't come for dinner, I will beat you. And so then you will learn that, you know, when I ring the bell, you come for dinner because it's delicious and because, so it's positive rewards and negative rewards. But the problem is it's so arbitrary, the rules aren't consistent. So it doesn't work like behavioral therapy does. So I think that's what these parents are trying to do. They're trying to say, okay, if I do this, then you do that. And if you don't do that, then I will punish you. The problem is it's all very arbitrary. The rules are not clear. It's all based on the parents' feelings. And these parents have a need to have everything very orderly and controlled. So they make every decision for their child, leaving the child without much freedom. And this may seem great because the children are so well behaved, but then when the child leaves the house, look out, because these people are either going to have zero sense of self-esteem, self-worth, or sense of self, or they are going to be rambunctious and sort of crazy. They go crazy with self-expression and like feel the freedom and just like, you know, they never learned how to monitor themselves. And so since they never learned that, now they're, you know, 18, 20 years old, and they have to learn stuff that they probably should have been learning at 2 or 3 or 4 years old. Okay, so what happens is with the autocratic parent is they're taking their underlying fear and shame, underlying feelings, and we're going to get into fear and shame in a minute, of not fitting in socially. And what they do is they take those fears, so it's either not fitting in socially or it's being afraid that the kid's going to get hurt, and they take those fears or that shame and they literally stick it on the kid. And when they do that with the shame, they're literally using their children to prove to themselves and to others that they are a good person. Are you guys getting what I'm saying? Is this making sense? I just want to make sure that part is clear. So if I'm afraid that my kid will embarrass me, then I need to control my kid tightly, because if my kid does something I don't like, that's my shame. That's what I'm embarrassed. Okay, yes, so you're getting it. Dagmar says, my father refused to pick me up at the discotheque because I was 30 minutes late. He was willing that I would ask a stranger to drive me home before he would change the pickup time. Right, so it's so arbitrary. You know, there's no negotiating. It's like my way or the highway, and that's what you get. So, okay, so we're also going to get into the personality development of the child and what the long-term consequences of the personality of the person who's being parented like that is. Okay, so you're not only going to learn about the effects of your parenting on your little people during this, but you're also obviously going to learn about how your personality may still be operating like this because your parents may have been autocratic or controlling. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Heather Hundhausen, and I work with world-changing leaders, especially primarily women, I include moms absolutely in that group. And I also include women who are in reparenting their own inner child, so that we can find our light. We can surrender our control, which we've learned from autocratic parenting and our autocratic parents. We can surrender our control and our need to be right and our need to prove ourselves, so that we can actually move into this really divine, radiant magnificence, so that we can really, really affect the world around us in an incredible and empowered way. So we're going to just always be looking at how self-love is going to bring you back to healing, and how not having self-love is the root of all of our problems. It's a vibrational frequency. So if we're vibrating love, everything's working. If we're vibrating fear, it's very restricted. You're not going to get what you want out of your life. All right, so do you think your parents were too autocratic, or do you think that they were too permissive? If you had to pick one, what would you say? So we're going to get into autocratic parenting and how it affects the child's self-esteem and the long-term effects. Okay, so if you know someone who's autocratic parenting, please share this video with them. Let's invite them. You can invite them right into this video and be like, hey, you should check out this video. We're talking about controlling parents. I think you had one, or whatever. Don't tell them they're being a controlling parent. They probably don't want to hear that. So autocratic. Yes, autocratic. What did I say? Something else? Yes, autocratic parenting. So if you have any questions, throw them in the comment box and I will be addressing them as we go. So imagine, oh, your parents were autocratic. Yes, okay. So imagine this scenario as a kid. You want to go out with your friends. It's probably not even worth it to ask your parents to go out, because you already know the answer is no. You know that they don't want you to hang out with anybody that they don't approve of, and they have to talk to the other parent first, which is embarrassing, and then they get to decide if the other child is worthy of you hanging out with them. So it's completely arbitrary. It's not based on any, like logical system, and you have no idea what the qualifying qualities of a good friend are. It's completely up to your parent. They get to decide whether or not your friend is good or not. How does that make you feel? I don't know about for you, but I didn't like the way that felt. So the trouble with autocratic parenting is there's too many rules, and they're totally arbitrary, meaning you don't know where the rules are coming from. So oftentimes the rules are based out of fear and shame, and the punishment has nothing to do with the offense. We've talked about this a little bit in some of the other mommy me times, how it's really important for the consequence to match the, I guess, misbehavior. But in autocratic parenting, it doesn't. It's like, oh, you got an F? Well, I'm taking away your video games. Like, what does one have anything to do with the other? Or you're not allowed to play on the soccer team now. Like, that has nothing to do with your grade. Like, the fact that maybe you don't understand what's going on in class has something to do with your grade. Or maybe you're not motivated in that subject. But like, what does soccer or video games? Anyway, I'm on a tangent. Let's get back. So we're going to look at fear-based autocratic parenting. We're going to look at shame-based autocratic parenting, because this is where this need to control these parents, this need to control comes from either fear or shame. So here's a fear-based autocratic parenting example. You can't go four-wheeling with your friends. You say, well, why not? And they say, well, because it's not safe. This is a fear-based autocratic controlling response. Let's imagine I'm talking to the mom now, okay? So I would say, well, what if your son was going to be the next four-wheeling Olympic champion? What if he was created to go four-wheeling and mudding? What if this is the thing that brings him ultimate joy and brings him close to God? You've just taken his joy away because of your own fears. So here's a personal example. So my son wants to do something called parkour, which basically means jumping from here to here with nothing in the middle. And my son told me he wants to roof parkour. And by roof, I mean the roof of a building, like a tall building, like a stunt man. I want to jump from this tall building to that tall building. So I'm cool with my kids climbing trees, and I've taught them to climb, and I know the rules of climbing, and it's not arbitrary. It's like, okay, you have four limbs, 2 arms and 2 legs. At all times, 3 limbs must be holding. You only move 1 limb at a time until you know you have a very secure hold. Then you pull yourself up and you move 1 more limb. I have no idea how to roof parkour, and it's quite terrifying to me, frankly. And we had a big discussion about this really being his dream. I see my child as a stuntman. I see him in my, like, when I imagine his future, he's either like a lifeguard on the beach, or he's a stuntman, or he's like doing sales because he just loves people so much. So if I was a fear-based autocratic parent, I would say, oh, hell no, you're not jumping from roof to roof. But because I have all these parenting skills, I've learned all of this stuff. And by the way, my parents would have said, oh, hell no. And it wouldn't have even been a second thought. But because I sat with my son and I asked him, hey, why is this so important to you, right? And this is what we can do. We can hear our kids out. We can listen to them. We can have a discussion about safety, their own personal strength, how much I trust them, who's going to pay the hospital bills when they fall off the building, right? Like, you get to have a conversation with all of this, with your child about whatever it is that you're terrified about, but they're excited to do. So I talked with my son about the possibilities of maybe learning to go to the gymnasium where they have parkour classes, and he can learn on the ground, and maybe he can have a mentor. He can have somebody teach him who's already done roof parkour. And then even though he may end up being a stuntman, like, if that's the reason that God put him on earth, I can't stop that as a parent. At 2 years old, my kid was climbing the door frame, like up the top of the door frame. Then he'd get to the top and go, help, I don't know how I got up here. Somebody get me down. Like, I knew when he was born in my stomach, I said, he's either going to be a soccer player or a gymnast. Like, he always has been extremely active. So, so then there's shame-based autocratic parenting, which is the second piece I'm going to get into. So this is a personal example. This is what shame-based autocratic parenting looked like for me. I heard you can't date a woman or a transgendered person. And then I was like, well, why not? And my answer was, well, because it's not right. In other words, it's not right meant I'm too ashamed to be your parent and that you're my offspring, and I will be too embarrassed to bring you to the country club and introduce you and your girlfriend or your transgendered partner to my people. So that parent is taking their shame and putting it on me, because they are embarrassed about that kind of lifestyle. I'm not embarrassed about that kind of lifestyle, but they're embarrassed about that kind of lifestyle. And when somebody is telling me that I can't be my full expressed self, what does that feel like for me? Again, it's also very arbitrary. It's based on the parents' feelings instead of the actual family rules that you've agreed upon as a family. Like, we didn't sit down one day and say, you know what, there should be no homophobic or no homosexual feelings in this household. It's just something we don't agree on, all four of us. Like, no, we never sat down and did that. It was just, these are the rules. You can't be like that. Don't be like that. It's wrong. So totally arbitrary and based on somebody's feelings. Oh, here's one more example of arbitrary parenting. Okay, so this is so we have the fear-based, the shame-based, and then this is just what does arbitrary mean? This is what arbitrary means. One day I was told, don't put your book bag next to the door when you come in the kitchen anymore, because it's in my way in the kitchen. Put it on the stairs leading up to the second floor. So we did what we were told, and we put the book bags on the stairs leading up to the second floor. And then later that day, our book bags were kicked off the stairs, and we were told, why are these book bags on the stairs? They're in my way. I can't get up the stairs carrying this laundry, and I just tripped over your book bag, and it shouldn't be there. So this is arbitrary parenting. It's like, you don't know what the rules are, and you don't know what's coming next. Did anybody watching have arbitrary parenting, or is anybody maybe doing arbitrary parenting? Or autocratic parenting? Are you guys relating to this, or any stories coming up for you that you want to share? So let's look at the personality of adults that were raised by autocratic parents. So number one thing that I want to say is there's actually research that's been done on spanking. A lot of autocratic and controlling parents use forms of punishment to hurt like to hurt their children to make them behave. So a lot of the research on spanking indicates that your child will have a low sense of self-esteem, and also, yes, we're getting to that, scared of the world, low sense of self-esteem, and also make less money. So if you were hit as a child in any way and you don't make a lot of money, those are correlated. It's no surprise. I'm not going to get into the whole psychology of that in this talk, but if you were punished physically, I mean, or verbally or mentally, really, they're all forms of punishment, but the spanking is the one that the research was done on. We can actually reprogram that with hypnosis. So if you are interested in making more money and you're realizing right now that I'm not making money because I was spanked, like, let's do a session and let's reprogram some of that stuff. Hi, Reagan. Thank you for being with me. Okay, so 2 different personalities that I know about. Now, this is my theory. This isn't like psychology. I mean, it's probably psychology, but it's just all of the inner child work that I do with all my clients. It ends up like, if you read like Carolyn Myss, she's got the like archetypes, and this kind of fits into that. This is what I've noticed. So like Dagmar's saying, scared of the world. Believe you need somebody else to take care of you. Yeah, exactly. This is what we're getting into. So my 2, like, what I see most often in my practice is you either get the good child or you get the rebel. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go into the good child, and Dagmar's definitely talking about the good child. So the good child did everything right as they could possibly do. This means if your parents say perform, you perform. If they say be quiet, you be quiet. If they say do a good job, you do a good job. If they say get A's, you get A's. Like, you are good, you do what they say, and it's all to avoid punishment. And punishment is super scary for these people. And so you learn to be a people pleaser, and you completely lose your sense of self. And this is where you get like the chameleon type of personality. So what happens in the body, just because I'm interested and fascinated with all that, I'm going to tell you guys about it. So what happens in the body is you shut down the 3rd chakra. Can you guys see me there? You shut down your 3rd. This is like your sense of self, your sense of knowing. I know what's going on there. So you get a lot of gut problems with people who are people pleasers. You also shut down the 5th chakra. So you can get like Hashimoto's. What's that? The thyroid. Isn't the thyroid in there? Yeah, Hashimoto's kind of syndromes. You can get laryngitis, tonsillitis. Sometimes you get like teeth pain, grinding of the teeth, anger issues, resentment, inappropriate communication, like holding in, not saying what you need. You become a withholder. Is all of this, anybody relating, going, oh my God, yes, all of this, I'm relating to all of this. A lot of times also what happens is the heart shuts down, like, because of the trust issues, right? So if you have an autocratic parent, the underlying feeling is I cannot be trusted, so they have to tell me what to do. So then you learn I'm a person who can't be trusted, and I don't trust myself, and then you shut down trusting yourself and trusting others, and that is part of the vibration of love energy. Migraines. The migraines are probably coming from the closure of the mouth, and migraines also come from these. You can see them pretty good on me. These muscles right here have really strong trigger points, these ones, for migraines. So what ends up happening is the 5th chakra is this like, can you see that even in my body, right? It's this like crunching and grinding down. So there's all this anger and like pissed offness that you're being controlled, because nobody wants to be controlled, which is, we're going to get in the 2nd personality, which is the rebel. So even the good child has the rebel inside, but they don't let the rebel out. They hold it in, and it's so constricted in the stomach, and it gets so constricted in the 5th chakra. And so you get the grinding of the jaw at night. So what ends up happening is all that anger and all that resentment is held all here in the face and the neck and throat. Is that all making sense? Yes, you don't allow yourself to get angry, you cry instead. Yeah, absolutely, because crying works. Because if you cry, a lot of times your parent's like, oh. Right, but if you're angry, then you're going head to head with a controller, and you will not win, which we talked about last week. Okay, so that's the good child. and they end up being people pleasers, big time people pleasers. These are like people who will do anything. They're like the doormats, right? Will do anything for anyone, become a chameleon. I don't know who I am, but I know who you need me to be, right? Codependence. Okay, so then the other personality that comes out of autocratic parenting is the rebel. This is the child who ends up actually being the scapegoat for the family. I love the rebel because the rebel says, this is effed up, and I am bringing this effed upness to the awareness of the world. Like, let me just show you how effed up we are. I will use myself as an example. They get in the face of the controlling parent, which just makes the controlling parent just like bear down even more, which makes the rebel just like be like, ah, even more. So this child will not be controlled no matter what. Under no circumstance, under no odds will this child be controlled. This is like resilience like you can't imagine. So this child a lot of times ends up running away, getting tattoos, like going goth, like wearing all black, doing drugs. A lot of times they end up in jail or other kinds of financial trouble. So they're like doing like this to the parent, and they're going like, I will not tolerate you controlling me. So when you are a gigantic FU to your parents, to teach them you won't be controlled, it's kind of fun as a kid, but you end up shooting yourself in the foot as an adult because you have this learned behavior of this FU style of relating to people. So it's not ever really learning how to be in healthy relationships where you can win-win negotiate and everybody wins, you win and the other person wins. Instead it's like, you won't control me, and you get this personality style of the like pusher. This is the one who's like craving love. They want that because that autocratic parent is very, very close, like almost smothering. So it feels kind of like love, but they're also pushing at the same time. So you get this personality of like the push-pull, like come close to me. Oh, not that close. Oh, wait, but I need you. No, but I don't need you that much. And it's very challenging to be in relationship with the person doing the push-pull. Also, you're shooting yourself in the foot by being the rebel because you get addicted to drugs and these kinds of very self-sabotaging behaviors. So if you're being a autocratic parent, like this is what you're creating in your kid. So what are we going to do about this? How do we not be an autocratic parent? So it goes back to all the stuff that I've been teaching. I actually didn't get a chance to write my notes down on this, so I'm just going to go fly by the seat of my pants. So really it's about having relationship is the most important thing that you can have with your kids. Are you doing things to encourage them to speak to you and feel, or are you doing things to stop them from speaking to you and coming to you and encouraging them to feel? Are you stopping their feelings because you can't handle your own feelings? The parents who are controlling and autocratic oftentimes are stopping their child from feeling because they just don't know what the heck to do with all those feelings. They never learned what to do with their own feelings, and so they stop their child from feeling. So that if you're finding as I'm talking that might be you, please come and work with me, do a couple sessions with me, because we can easily clear that. That's not something that's challenging to clear. And of course, the secret ingredient, as always, is love. It's intention. So you're looking at relationship, you're looking at intention. What am I creating with my mind? Your visualization. Who do I want my kids to become? It's a lot of the same stuff that we covered last week. So you want to be firm and have boundaries, because as we discussed last week with permissive parenting, if you're too permissive, your child doesn't feel safe. But if you're too controlled, your child doesn't feel safe. So it's about being loving and present and kind and listening, but it's also about being firm and having boundaries, and everybody knows what the rules are, and the rules were negotiated. So there's a lot of win-win negotiating happening, and the family rules are consistent. That's what's happening in a healthy environment. All right, so do you guys have any questions for today? I'll do a quick recap here. So the quick recap is autocratic parenting is happening generally because of two underlying feelings. It's either fear-based or it's shame-based. And the result of the child coming out of an autocratic parent is going to be the good girl or the people pleaser, or which has a very strong sense of loss of self and not knowing who I am or what I should do or where I should go because somebody else has always told me. Or you get the rebel who's like, I'm going to do whatever the F I want, F you guys. And this person struggles with trust and struggles with relationship and does a lot of self-sabotaging behavior. So what can we do for homework? Before I do some homework, just don't forget to share this video. So if you know somebody, like, I want you to think in your mind's eye right now of somebody that you know who you know that they're doing some autocratic parenting, or maybe they had parents who were autocratic, and maybe you're seeing some patterning being passed down. It's such a sensitive topic, you can see it. You can see when your friends are doing it. And we want so badly for those children to be in healthy, loving homes. And we want those parents so badly. We want those parents to feel like, to have that sense of control and feel like that what they're doing is right without that sense of guilt. A lot of times autocratic and controlling parents, their kids are miserable and they know it. And I remember when I was being really autocratic and really controlling, and I would literally cry myself to sleep at night being like, God, please make tomorrow not be so hard. Like, I hate yelling at my kids. I hate punishing my kids. I don't know what to do. And that's when this parenting course fell in my lap. And it was the biggest blessing of my life. So if you know somebody who's being autocratic or they had autocratic parents, please invite them and send them the video, because it's so rewarding to know that there's another way of doing it when you're doing it like that, because you really don't want, nobody wants to spank their kid. Nobody wants to yell at their kid. Nobody wants to be super controlling. We all want love, and we want a close, loving relationship with our kids. This doesn't mean we're friends with our kids. It doesn't mean my kid is my best friend. I'm still parenting my kid. But it does mean that the relationship is really strong and that there's a huge sense of trust. I trust my kid and my kid trusts me. And you can't build that when you're doing autocratic parenting. So please, please share the video with anybody that you think would benefit. And then for homework, I think the best thing to do for someone who's being autocratic is to have the first thought be, how am I loving my child? Before you go into any, and if you are raised by autocratic parenting and you tend to be controlling with your partner or your friends or your family, it's the same thing. It's, as I enter into this relationship that I really have a strong desire to control, what if I bring love up first? What if I bring love and trust into my heart first, and I see the person, my child or my partner, whoever it is, in front of me from the perspective of love and trust? When I do that, you can't be autocratic and controlling when you do that. You create a space to hear each other and win-win negotiate. And that's, the homework really is win-win negotiating, but we didn't go over how to win-win negotiate. So I would say pull up the intention of love and trust. And if you don't trust the person you're speaking with, whether it's your kid or your partner, whoever it is, you get to look at, how do I build trust? So if that's something you guys want me to talk about, I would love to talk about that too. So that is it today. If you guys are feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm doing autocratic parenting, or I was parented by somebody autocratic and I'm feeling like a people pleaser and I don't know myself, or oh my gosh, I'm being such a rebel and I'm shooting myself in the foot all over the place, reach out to me. This is stuff that can be easily reprogrammed. And you know, we can look at those beliefs, and basically it's the same like we do with body work. We find the area of tension, we unwind it, the body allows itself to be unwound. Sometimes it takes a couple of sessions, sometimes it's just one, and it kind of vibrates really, and then it sort of releases and relaxes. And the same thing happens with our belief system. So if you're ready to unwind some of those tight belief systems that have you doing things you don't want to be doing in your life, reach out to me, and then, you know, share the video. Let's get the message of peace and love spread all over the world. Thank you for being here with me. I appreciate you so much. Give yourself a little pat on the back for taking time out of your busy schedule today for me time, because this is time for you to learn about how you can access your love, how you can access how to be in relationship, healthy relationship with people. How do you negotiate with a toddler? You want to give them space to learn and grow, yet there's a strong need for boundaries. Yes, how do you negotiate with a toddler? So any child who's over 18 months old is starting in with no, right? Is that what you're talking about, Michelle? Are we talking about the no's? Did you, and I don't know if you watched the video from last week about permissive parenting. I would watch that one too, because we talk a lot about boundaries in that one. Yeah. So what's happened? So you want to watch last week's one on permissive parenting, because we talk about the control cycle and wait, when was the one where we did the controls? Oh, that was Wednesday's video, the Wifey Wednesday. We talked about control, the passive person being in relationship with the control person. Watch that one also, because it talks about the power struggle and how it moves into a revenge cycle. And that's what's happening with the 2-year-old, because the 2-year-old is learning how to say, no, I want to be me, and you're going, I want you to behave. Oh, we talked about that. Okay, yeah. So, so that's what we're doing there, is we're getting out of power struggle. So it's all, oh my gosh, there's like 11 redirects for power struggle. We're not going to get into that today in this video, but it's redirecting power struggles. It's letting go of your position. It's doing something different. It's having fun. It's win-win negotiating. It's logical consequences. It's all of that kind of stuff that goes with power struggle. So, okay, cool. Good question. Very good question. So yeah, I mean, it's all a balance, right? It's like, I don't want to be uber super controlling because I'm going to squish their little personality, but I don't want to be so loose and so free that they feel like scared to go out into the world. It's a balance. So, and it's about healthy balance, and it's about negotiating with your kid and knowing your kid trusting you and you trusting your kid. Really, that's what it's about. How are you building trust with your kid? And you do that through intention. So like we learned this weekend, thought directs energy. So if you're coming from love and you're coming from trust, that's going to be creating what you want to create in your family. So, all right, guys, thank you for joining me. Have an awesome rest of the day. Tomorrow's Tantra Tuesday. I don't remember what the topic is, but I'm sure it'll be fun. And I'll see you guys then. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for spending time with me.